Welcome back to Mexico Relocation Guide. My name is Mariana, and our guests today are Chris and Jacqueline, who moved to San Miguel de Allende in 2022. In this video, they share their inspirational story of moving to a new country and reflecting after living here for over a year on what they would have done differently and what their advice is for other foreigners thinking of moving to Mexico. So thank you so much, Jacqueline and Chris, for being our guests and sharing your story on our channel. Let's hear what they have to say, shall we?
Well, I'm Jacqueline and moved to Mexico in November of 2022, literally the day after Thanksgiving, U.S. holiday, yeah.
And I'm Chris, originally from DC, lived in Charlotte before we kind of moved here to Mexico, here in San Miguel de Allende. I think the biggest thing about why we sort of made that much of an abrupt move was really the environment in the US at the time. And it was really weighing heavy on Jackie at the time. And, you know, between the violence, between the politics, it was like, we need to get out of here as quickly as possible. I couldn't stand to see her in that mental state for so long. So after a while, it became, okay, we're just gonna go and we have to go figure it out. You know, we get down there, we know we've done enough research on YouTube, we talked to enough people, we know that if we come down, we can make it work no matter what. For at least a year, we can get a year under our belts and make it work and not feel like we have to run back home for anything. So really it was a saving of our own mental state to get out of the country and get into some place that just felt more relaxed, more peaceful, less violent.
Yeah. Plus, he wouldn't let us spend the extra money. Like, well, we're really going to go and explore anyway. So it was like, well, let's not waste, let's not spend extra money just to go explore. Let's just explore now.
Because the plan was to sell the house, to sell everything in it. So really we were traveling with suitcases. So there was nothing to come back to, even if we didn't like it or something. Like we go forward to someplace else. So really it was just, go ahead and make the move, do what you got to do, and make sure you can adjust to whatever you run into. So our original plan was we bought sort of our dream house. That was going to be the house we were going to die in. We had dreams of grandkids running through the house, and that was going to be sort of the end of our story. But we only had that house for about a year until we just got to the point where we just had to get out of the country. So we spent that year sort of putting our house together the way that we wanted to, getting all the furniture we wanted to. So it was difficult kind of saying, you have to switch your entire life plan right now and leave it all behind. And for us doing it so quickly, we did an estate sale and basically just kind of wiped everything out at one time. And with estate sales, even if you don't sell everything, they just ditch it all. They come and take it all. So like there was stuff in there that didn't get sold that we know we put out a lot of money for that was hard to kind of leave behind. But it was going to be difficult for us to take it from North Carolina all the way into Mexico.
Or be an extra bill or burden to do a storage facility.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we sold it or donated it.
Yeah. So I would say, if I had to do it over again, I probably would just wait until we sold the house outright, slowly sold the things we wanted to sell so we can really get our top dollar for it.
And I wish we had kept some of the housewares because some of those things are either difficult to source here or they're more expensive. Our family and friends had mixed reactions. So there was actually more people than I thought that were happy for us. What I found interesting was our elders, how our elders responded to our moving or us moving. They were like, go ahead and do it. Y'all are young, your knees are still good, It seemed like the older ones were more encouraging of us leaving. The ones that were more our age or a little younger were more skeptical.
Yeah, I would say for family and friends reaction, it was mostly positive. There were a couple that are, oh, what are you worrying about the cartel? And, are you going to get kidnapped and things like that? Which just comes from, a lack of understanding the culture in the country and actually what's actually going on here. But I think for the most part, people were supportive, just knowing the environment that we're all in and everyone's kind of feeling that same pressure of, America's not the place that it used to be. And then there were people who were supportive vocally, but quietly worried. where,
Yeah.
after a couple of conversations later on, they'd say, well, think about, your safety and make sure everything's okay. And do you want to be so far from the family and stuff like that? But, for the most part, nobody was like, hey, do not go, stay here. Everyone was really supportive. So that was really, something that kind of helped us make that decision quickly the way we did. We had that kind of support behind us. Say what made me fall in love with San Miguel is the food and probably the weather, I think. Coming from North Carolina, we generally have overall pretty good weather. It doesn't get super duper cold all the time. We get a little bit of snow. But here it's pretty much spring year round. It may get down to 40 degrees Fahrenheit at night. Today's a little warmer, may get up into the 90s. But it's not Merida where it's 120 degrees. It's not, in the mountains somewhere where it's super duper cold. It's a good kind of even place. And, I used to be a former chef, so food is always a big thing for me. And any day of the week you can find a great restaurant.
And for me, I fell in love with San Miguel over the views. It's the view for me. Yeah, the vistas are just so pretty. And it's everywhere. You know what I mean? It's everywhere. You could be on one street, you look down, you on another street, you look up. And people don't realize that there's almost like 3 levels of San Miguel, and if you're on one side of the mountain, you get one view. And if you're on the other side, you get another view, go up, go down, all around. It's just so beautiful.
And I would say I have a love and hate relationship with the views. I love the views, but it made it very hard for us to house hunt because she could not have a house without a view. That was non-negotiable. So no matter how many great things a house had, if it didn't have a view, it was off the list.
Finding housing is easy. And that was my assessment of it. Something that's different compared to the States is that the house or the property you're looking for is connected to an agent. So once you start, search, you get your criteria, you put it out there. I believe we use Facebook, some word of mouth, and found an agent. It's like, okay, Miss So-and-so, Miss So-and-so, this is what we're looking for. And they go hunt for the houses and they show you the housing. And for us during that time anyway, it seemed like it was simple. We may not have liked everything they showed us, but there was something to show. And for deposits, their minimum was a security deposit and their first month's rent. And there were some homeowners that wanted the last month's rent up front as well. So there may have been three payments due at once.
Yeah, so I would say the house hunting process was relatively easy, but it's different than the United States. Like Jackie said, you can't necessarily go on MLS and see everything in one place like you can in the US. You can't go to Zillow or wherever and kind of see everything. An agent has a particular group of homes that they have, and that's kind of their whole inventory. They can kind of piggyback with other agents and kind of talk to each other and, trade properties and split commissions. But we did house hunting probably 3 times since we've been here in a year and a half, and probably talked to 5 or 6 different agents just so we can have a good idea of what's all on the market at one time. So we can kind of go see what's what and get a better understanding of where the prices fall, what the neighborhoods look like. Because you kind of get told a couple of things like, San Antonio and Guadiana and Guadalupe are the great neighborhoods, but like there's so much more of the city that's actually great too, which is really a lot better price than some of those neighborhoods are. And depending on what your budget is, you can get really, amazing things. And even at a lower budget, you can get some really nice things as well.
I think whenever you all are, looking for your places to live, ask to see a wide scope, because literally we're saving half on our rent by living across the highway. Literally. So in San Antonio, we would be spending double. The house obviously is a little bigger, it's a little nicer, but is it worth double? And the answer is no.
Yeah. So estimating our budget, we're looking at about 15,000 pesos in rent. Water is, I don't know, 120 pesos a month at the most. We've only been here for a month at the most. So we had the first electric bill wasn't a full 2 months. It was only sort of 2 weeks, and that was 76 pesos. So that would be somewhere around probably 300 pesos for the whole month. Food and eating out, we probably eat out more than we should. And San Miguel tends to be more expensive, so, you know, spend at your own risk, I would say, in San Miguel. You can spend a whole lot of money. As far as food, maybe $200 to $300 US a month. Yeah, I think that's pretty much most of the budget there as far as sort of, you know, ongoing expenses.
Full electric, and then the Garrafone water.
Yeah, I mean, Garrafone water will get
What do you
5
got,
Garrafones for less than 200 pesos.
Like
And that's delivered to the
160
house.
pesos, yeah.
So overall, it's pretty inexpensive living we're in Las Brisas here, which is, she said, across the highway from San Antonio. So like just shifting your perspective a little bit can save you a ton of money per month, just by going maybe one neighborhood over from where everybody says it's popular. You still have access to all the same things, but you can save a ton of money, particularly in rent over everything else. And then what internet is maybe, I don't know, $50 US a month at the most, be a total play.
We have YouTube TV, which is probably $60 or $65 a month.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's pretty much, you know, the whole budget for the most part, other than paying off all the debt, of course, but you know.
That American debt.
Debt will vary per person, you know. It's the one thing I wish I could have left behind is all the American debt.
Telling you.
Las Brisas as a neighborhood, I think, is very family friendly. You'll see a whole lot of variety of people, foreigners, locals, people of all ages. Yeah, there's definitely a couple of parks in the neighborhood. There's small local coffee shops. Like there's a Russian woman a couple of streets over who has her own little coffee shop in her house, which is fun. And there's sort of close shopping within proximity to here. So it's not as sort of packed as maybe San Antonio or Guadalupe is as far as shopping is concerned. But you have enough things close enough that you can kind of get what you need. You can always walk under the bridge into San Antonio in a couple of minutes and get all of their, you know, access there. And also being a little bit higher up on the hill, you get a perfect view of the entire city. And it's called Las Brisas for a reason because the wind is always blowing here. It's always whipping. For better or for worse, you know, sometimes your patio furniture gets blown down the street or something. But it's been, you know, so far we've been here about a month. We love it. We have a lot of friends in the neighborhood as well. It's been really, you know, great as compared to, you know, some of the other places in the city. I feel like it's just as good as any of the other kind of top neighborhoods at half the price. So like, why wouldn't you, you know, enjoy it?
Normally, this is the American mindset. If you're spending half, normally you're ducking bullets. And that's a very true statement. Normally you're ducking bullets or dodging rats if you are saving half on your rent. And that's not the truth here. It's just the inconvenience of now you are disconnected from Centro.
Yeah, so our situation may be a little different. We came down initially and got a temporary residency, and we did that through one of the facilitators in the relocation guide who helped us in La Paz.
Super helpful.
Yeah, so we did that process first, as kind of everybody's kind of, I think, I don't want to say caution to do, but, you know, suggested, hey, just go and get your temporary first, spend some time, and then go to permanent later. But I actually had a move in my job, and my job has an entity in Mexico. So I was able to kind of switch from the US entity into the Mexican entity in Mexico. But in order to do that, I need to have a work visa, which was easier to do to get a permanent residency. So we were able to go back to that facilitator in La Paz a couple months after we first came down to actually set up our permanent residency. Right. So as you know, like all around Mexico, depending on which I&M office you go to, the rules are a little different depending on who your facilitator is. They have different connections. So we were fortunate to have that facilitator be able to help us get into permanent residency a little bit sooner than maybe, you know, some of the other places here. Like if we waited for San Miguel, it would take 6 weeks to even get an appointment.
We'd still be in line.
Whereas with her, we could come down in 2 weeks and get everything we need and just, you know, kind of come back to San Miguel. So the process, you know, for the most part, the facilitator was great, took care of all the paperwork for us. We really had to show up, pay the money, and that was really all we had to do. So that as a process, I think, you know, for anybody thinking about should you use a facilitator or not, if you have the money to pay for it, I always would. I think, you know, from what I've heard, even locals use facilitators when you're dealing with the government because it's difficult dealing with the government in Mexico. You add a language barrier to that, and like if you don't know the system, you'll get lost in it and you'll just end up wasting time and money. So the process for us has been pretty simple, but it was accelerated just by the fact that I had to have that for my job because it is a Mexican entity and I work in a Mexican company now. One of the things you kind of have to deal with, even coming to Mexico at all, is like, there's always going to be a problem. There's always going to be situations popping up. Life is going to life in the way that it always does. There's going to be something pop up that you don't expect. And are you ready and prepared to handle that? So I always tell people when you come down here, like, live beneath your means as much as possible. Don't come down here and get the most expensive house you can get. You know, live a little bit down for a little while. Make sure everything is solidified when you get down here so that when surprises do happen, your budget can actually absorb, you know, if something hits.
Waste of time. No, are you kidding me, Mary? The relocation guide. Oh my gosh, Mariana does such a good job. And her whole team. But it's been super helpful for us. Like, you know, like my husband said, we used it and literally within, I don't even think it was 7 days, we had our temporary residency. And we also had a little vacation, you know, wrapped up in there too. You know, but it's just been very helpful. And I think the information is very honest and it's also up to date. Because like we've experienced, things change. You know, what worked last month or last year may not work this month or this year, you know? And so it's just always up to date and very helpful. Very helpful, for sure.
I would say the biggest help from the relocation guide is that it's not a static guide, it's a living document and it's a living community around it. So, you know, initially you kind of think, man, I got to pay for information and it feels like, I don't know if I should pay. I can probably just go on the internet and find everything. And like all the information that's in there is on the internet, but you don't know what to trust, right? So you can go get information from any kind of place, but you don't know if it's good or if it's bad information. So what the guide really provides is a way to give you information that's good, that's vetted. She has a community on Facebook as well. And I've seen her go in there and say, hey, I've been hearing bad reviews about this person. I'm taking them out of the guide. Don't use them anymore. I'm not comfortable, you know, recommending them anymore.
That's good integrity.
So that's been a thing where like, hey, it's money well spent. We found facilitators there. We found realtors. I have an accountant doing my taxes now. I found through there. Like, no matter what state you're in between, you know, just getting ready to go to Mexico or been here for a while, there's always good information in there, no matter what stage of the journey you're in. So, I mean, it's an invaluable guide that's worth every penny, for, you know, to me at the end of the day. I would say my quality of life in Mexico is different, and not always different because of Mexico, but because of, I think, the amount of work and effort it took to get here. I think there's a narrative around sort of, you know, Americans coming down here and just taking advantage of everything and it being sort of easy. You can walk across the border and just kind of like, that's not true. It's like there's a lot of effort and work it takes to get here emotionally, physically, financially. And once you get here, you understand what you're capable of. And then you come into a community and a culture of people who are hustlers and hard workers. And then you look at yourself and like, okay, I'm sitting on the couch watching TV. Like, why am I not putting in work like someone else is putting in work? And you see examples of that all around you. And you understand that there's always sort of dreams and goals I think we all have that we're letting sit by the wayside, that we're not putting effort into. So part of that was coming down here and starting a YouTube channel and doing a podcast that, you know, probably could have done 10 years ago if I wanted to. But now I've actually put forth the effort and understand I'm in a place, in a space where I can actually commit myself to something and be consistent and put in hard work because I'm surrounded by that kind of energy. And even on top of that, my health is, you know, a little better. I'm a kidney transplant patient. So that was a big part of the decision coming down here. Can I come down here and still be able to support myself medically and get all the medicines I need and the doctors I need? And all of that was available. Still working on getting all the weight off, you know, that's always an eternal journey. That's something I haven't put the hard work into just yet, as enough as I need to. But, you know, so far it's been a blessing to be down here. And I try and encourage people to at least come down and visit and see a different way of life and a different way of living.
Well, my health has not gotten better. If anything, it has gotten worse because Mexico has bakeries on every corner. And I'm not exaggerating. But I will say my mental health is a lot better. I do not go into a grocery store and worry about someone walking in and hurting me. So my mental health has gotten better. So yeah, that stress level's gone down and pounds have gone up. Kilos, whatever form of metrics you use.
My experience with medical staff here has been a lot different than the US. Number one, in the US, it's hard to do any type of doctor visit, get any type of medicine without insurance. But here you can do pretty much any of the normal stuff and beyond, getting surgery or something like that without insurance, and it doesn't kill your budget. But for the most part, I've been really happy with it. You can get doctors to actually come to your house when you're sick, so you don't have to go out.
Yes, house visits.
That's been a godsend to be, sick in bed and not have to drag yourself out of the bed, across the cobblestone, up and down hills, in and out of a taxi to get to a doctor to get some help. Like, they'll come to you,
for like $75.
For $75,
Unheard of in the States.
So, the system isn't perfect. There's issues with it. Again, I work for a Mexican company now, so I have Mexican insurance, health insurance, which is difficult to use as compared to trying to use it in the US. There's a whole lot of sort of claim forms and sending things in after the fact. Rather than the US, you just have your card, you kind of pass their card and all the information is there. So insurance between the two countries is a little different. But overall, the healthcare system, I think, is more beneficial to regular, everyday people here than it is in the US. You can survive without having to have insurance at the end of the day.
And just something as simple as filling a prescription. In the US, you have to get the prescription from your doctor, and then you take it to the pharmacy and you wait minimum 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes. You have to wait. Here, you walk up, here's the prescription, they turn around and pull it off the shelf and bag it up, and you just pay for it. And it's like,
right.
Sometimes your time is just, because if you're not feeling well, I'd like to get my meds and go home.
So that's one of those things that, everyday healthcare, I think, is so much easier here than it is in the United States.
The reception here from the local community was a slow warm-up. This is my opinion. Specifically when it comes to San Miguel, there's so many people that come and go. You know what I mean? So I don't think they know whether they should, be all warm and fuzzy, because I'm never going to see that person again. I ain't giving up all that energy. You know what I mean? But I think once we started to become repeat customers, it's like, oh, I've seen them twice. I've actually seen them 3 times. Like, oh, let me get a chance to know them. So I think it was a slow warm up.
To me, I look at it from a lens of tourism. I've lived in a couple places that are tourist spots as well. And when you go into the tourist area, there are people that are happy and joyous to see you because they are paid to be happy and joyous to see you, and because it makes them money.
Right.
So part of it is a language barrier. We can say hello and can we order something, but you can't necessarily have that full engaging conversation like you want to. And that's really 100% on us to kind of learn the language and understand how we fit into this community and really engage in that way. And I think a lot of people say San Miguel is, the friendliest town in the world. And I think you have to put that energy out there to get that back. You don't come here and just expect, I'm just walking down the street and everybody's going to be hello and coming out the doors like a Disney movie and hey, how you doing?
Right.
That's not the environment. But if you come into the environment and you present yourself in a way that's happy and you're open and you say hello to people coming down the street, they're going to give you that energy back. And I think, if a lot of people come to Mexico in general with that same energy, they'll really understand the warmth and the love of the culture is you have to give something to get something back. You don't come here and get it for free. You have to earn your way into Mexican culture. It's not, I show up and I'm the king of the place. This is not colonization. This is, you're in a new place and you have to make yourself fit into what's going on. Anything I don't like about Mexico? I don't think so. I think specifically to San Miguel is the physicality of the city, the cobblestones and the hills. I really don't understand how this is such a retiree place. I would think such a difficult, terrain to kind of get through sometimes. That can be an issue. But I think a lot of things I've kind of gotten used to, the water difference, the noise level is definitely different here. One thing I've heard is in America, the people are loud, but the environment is quiet. But in Mexico, the people are quiet and the environment is loud. So it's kind of just getting used to a different amount of noise. Like you were talking about the people that come by and buy the stuff from your house, the lavadores and colchones, and hearing that at like 8 o'clock in the morning is disturbing sometimes. But you also get used to that after a while. So like culturally, I think I'll put some words in my wife's mouth for sure. She is definitely has issues with restaurant service.
No, I have graduated.
You graduated, but in the
Thank you.
beginning it's different than, coming here. And I think restaurant service is very different than it is in the US. In the US, they're very much, overly attentive sometimes, always at the table, always want to kind of make sure everything's okay. In Mexico, they're very laid back and just, hey, take your time. It's not a big deal. So you have to kind of get yourself in a mode to say, hey, I'm gonna come and just relax. I don't have to rush and, hey, I need my water and I need my drink, and like, just relax. It's okay. Spend some time, settle in. To integrate and blend easier into Mexico, number one, learn the language. I think number two, learn the culture. And that also means learn, like you said before, learn the pricing, like learn what a fair price is. Don't come here and just think, oh, because I have more money or this is a great price compared to where I came from, that the price that you're paying is great. And then there's some that I think there's nothing you can do, because I know gentrification happens back in the US all the time, and it does not matter what you do in some of those communities. We don't want you in the community. We don't want you here. Stay where you are, because we know the impact that people like you have had. And I think the hardest part to do is to change someone's mind in that. I think the most you can do is come down, be respectful. And I think part of that is communicating with people more, which is, again, a language thing of like, have people actually understand why you're here, what you're about, that you're not trying to come in and take what they have, that you're not trying to come here and change their culture, that you want to come down and be a part of their culture. You want to come down and participate and add to and not take away. And I think, that's something that a lot of people don't understand, is that you can come into a community and bring yourself with you and your culture with you and add that to what's here.
As North Americans, we are taught to be takers, and we're taught to be selfish. And when you get that passport and you pack that bag, if you can just leave that selfishness at home, it would be helpful, and it's not about necessarily doing everything that's in the culture, but it's about just being patient and learning. And you got to do the learning and being patient before you get here, and then once you get here, then you can put it into practice, because once you start packing the bag and you want to move and it's about me, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. And that same sense of entitlement happens in America too, and they brought that with them. Like in the communities they're in, if there's something they don't like, the American mindset is, hey, you don't like this thing, try and change it. Rather than, hey, I don't like this thing, let me go understand what it's about. Let me see if I can actually work and live with it. We
have a shut it down mentality.
Right. The only solution is for me to win and for you to lose, and that's the only solution there is. My best advice for people that want to move to Mexico, I'll throw the commercial in there, get the Mexico relocation guide for sure. It is money well spent. I would say, don't do what we did. Do come down and visit a couple places, get a couple cities, understand, what kind of fits your lifestyle, what you want to do. It doesn't have to be as extreme of a move as we did. Do you want to be on the beach? Do you want to be in the city? Do you want to be in the mountains? And also try and touch base with local people there, either immigrants or Mexican locals themselves, to understand exactly what you're getting yourself into. There's a lot of nuance that you don't learn until you actually get here. And those people can share some things with you that you wouldn't even understand unless you actually lived here. So that would be my biggest piece of advice, get some Mexico under your belt and, get outside of Cancun, right? Because, a lot of people go to the tourist spots and you've been to the beach and you think,
get off the resort.
Mexico is the resort and the beach. Like, it's not. It's so many other things,
Get off the resort, guys.
So do some visiting, do some talking, do some learning, connecting with people as much as possible.
So my advice would be to understand what you are willing to give up, because everything isn't always translatable. All of Mexico is not a monolith. It's not just, it's one country, but it's so vast. Like he's saying, he mentioned geographical things, mountains and beaches, oh my, but there's still so much more. Even if you're in the Yucatan there's so much more, right, to explore. So just look at what is it that you need and make sure that that place has it. So whether it's medical or whether, if whatever it is, right? Like San Miguel, if you have a bum knee,
Don't come here.
and we love San Miguel, but if you have a bum knee, San Miguel is not the place.
Yeah.
So just look at what your needs are and then match them up to the place where that will be a good fit for you, health-wise, mental, physical, spiritual health-wise. And then I think they will be able to take it from there.
It is not free to get here. It does not matter how much money you have. It is not free. You will lose something when you come here. Mm-hmm. It may be your closeness to your family. It may be access to certain foods that you like. It could be something small. It could be something big. But there's always a challenge when you come here that you're going to have to overcome. Mm-hmm. And not even just Mexico in general, but leaving what you know and what you're comfortable with and going to something new. Yeah. There's always going to have to be something that you have to leave behind or that you have to change for. Mm-hmm. So
transportation could change.
Right.
We used to have a car, just jump in, move. It's not like that.
It's not like that.
Order an Uber, flag down a taxi, walk on the cobble. Yeah. Up the hill, down the hill.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a change, right?
Yeah. Just be ready for challenges and don't give up as soon as you hit one challenge. Stick it out, fight through it. There's people that, get to Maryland Maryland's too hot. I'm going back to the U.S. And I'm like, okay, there's a whole other part of the country that isn't hot. Right? It's not all 120 degrees year round. Okay, try something else.
Mm-hmm, right.
And it kind of separates, I don't want to say the weak from the strong, but it separates the people who really want to be here and want to contribute from those who are just, oh, it's cool to go to Mexico or I just want to go down there and save money. There's more to it than that. You're going to have to put in some effort on your side.
I want to say to the Mexico relocation guide family and viewers, just say thank you for watching, and we hope that you all use the information because it is good and it is very useful. And cuídate.
Thank you everybody for watching. Mexico Relocation Guide audience, you guys know how great the guide is. If you have not partake. It has helped us. It'll help you. We're glad you're here watching. And we're glad that they came to share our experience with all of you. And I hope it helped you in some way. So until next time, peace.